Hello, hello. Welcome to this episode of The Creative Pause. My name is Susan Padron, and I am here with my co-host, who I will allow to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacey Faye. It's good to be with you today on the Creative Pause. This day and every day that we're with you and every episode we're with you, we hope that it brings a sense of joy and connection and a smile to your face at this time where we're all struggling in different ways or dealing with a roller coaster of emotions. And we always, well, first off, we have Erika Urso here again with us today from Love Bites by Erika. And she was with us once previously doing a really great art piece, but she's here today doing some cooking, which is going to be great. And I believe it involves chocolate and it makes everything better. So we're very excited to get to her. We will in a moment. But before we do that, we always check in with everybody, see how everyone's doing, and aim to keep this show really genuine. So I'll share, Susan will share, and Erika will also share how she's doing. And we invite you at home to write it down or say it aloud, or also find a way to share out, how you're doing in this time. So I said to Susan and Erika, and they actually don't know my news. I said to Susan and Erika prior to this recording that it was going to be a pretty honest check-in on my part. So I'm actually not going to talk about pregnancy. That's not the check-in. The check-in on my part is that, so we're all in this time where, we may have relatives or family or friends that have been in the hospital and you can't actually visit them, or, they have to spend their time alone there. And I learned today that a family friend who's been part of our family for a long time, she's very young, is dying of cancer and no one can visit her. Not even her mother. Her young husband is only able to see her very briefly. The hope is they can get her home and maybe people can visit her that way. But I guess I just want to hold space for her and space for that. And all the people out there who are essentially, they're, transitioning from their lives into whatever's beyond this, in a way where they can't even have their most precious people in their life around them because of this pandemic we're in. So I know Erika's episode here is going to air, I believe, hopefully after the pandemic and we get back to normal times. But for any of you that are going through this sort of thing or know anyone who has, my heart definitely goes out to you. And it's a very strange and crazy time we're in, and a time that's unlike any other, I think, that we've ever experienced in our generation or for numerous generations. So in any case, I don't even need a response from anyone on that. I don't even know if I want one, but I wanted to put it out there because I just found that news out maybe like an hour ago. So it's sitting heavy. So anyway, keep her in your thoughts. And same for anyone else who might be going through this. So anyway, sorry to start out such a hopeful episode with real talk, but it's the reality of what we're all going through. So Susan, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for being I know it's something we always try to do with the show, Stacey, but thank you for being so open and honest and bringing up such an important issue, that many people are struggling with and maybe not getting the opportunity to really discuss. I know you don't want a response, but I can't just be like, moving on, it just, with how close we are with the nature of the show, it wouldn't feel right. So I hope you don't mind that I did not listen to your request and decided to acknowledge you anyway. It's out of love. But back to me, I guess. I'm doing okay. I've, Mother's Day, when the time we're recording this, Mother's Day is coming up. And it's been like a weird holiday to kind of like think about, because we're all separated from our families. And I've just been, instead of just like sitting with that sadness, I've been trying to figure out what I can do to help myself feel better about it and help my family feel better about it. Which means that, and I'm also trying to like support local businesses too in the process and figure out what I can do for my mom, my sister, and my mother-in-law, and do things that are like small gestures to show and share my love for them, even though we can't be like physically together during these times. Um, and yeah, so focusing on that and like kind of making that mindset shift has put me in a better place. It's something that I've been like really tackling the last like day or so. Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm doing okay today. But Erika, how are you?
Um, yeah, today was it was kind of full of mixed emotions. We talked about this a little bit before we started, but I woke up to some good news. An article that I had participated in. I didn't write it, but I did participate in it. It did get published in the New York Times, which came out today. Um, it's a little bit about old-timey hobbies that people are getting back into during quarantine. It actually reminds me a lot of what you guys are showcasing here, just different ways that people are kind of coping with the extra time they have. My little piece was on natural dyeing. I actually dyed this little apron that I'm wearing now. But that was my good news. On my lower, on my lower end, my sister-in-law, my baby brother, his wife, they're expecting their first child, and this weekend was supposed to be her baby shower. So I am feeling very sad about not being able to be all together and to shower her with the love and attention and gifts that her and my future nephew deserve. So I am just doing my best to connect with people, especially my family, this weekend, you know, to set aside some time and make sure that we either, whether we FaceTime or talk or message, whatever we do, that we do have that connection, because it's something we were all really looking forward to. And I know in the backs of our minds, we really had our fingers crossed that we would be getting back, you know, a little bit to normal around now. But that said, we, you know, we'll get creative. We'll figure out a way to give her and the baby everything that they deserve, even if we have to do it from a distant manner. But that's heavy on my heart today. I'm really thinking about her and hoping that she is not stressing herself out. That's really where my focus is right now, is with my family. So kind of goes along with what you and Stacey were saying.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Erica. I know that that's really hard. I wonder if there might be a way, you know, maybe it's not this weekend, maybe it's a little bit of time from now, but a way to pull together a virtual party of some sort. I'm actually
Yeah.
hopeful to do that on Saturday for myself. I don't think I'm going to get there. I think I'm going in labor before then, which is funny because my in-person gathering also got canceled. I think this is going to get canceled. But point being, you know, maybe talking with her about what might be meaningful on a virtual level to kind of make her feel supported um, and that sort of thing. And actually, there's this is a random thought, but my sister does a project called the Joy Catchers, where she can compile video montages for people to send joy. And I actually just got mine. Susan was part of it. I just got mine last night and bawled my eyes out. It was like probably 35 people, women in my life, that all were sending me messages of, you can do this, and we're here with you, even though we can't be there in person. And that might be another option too, just like some way to kind of literally have her kind of face to face, have people tell her she's strong, she can do it. They're there celebrating with her and with them. And so, yeah, so it doesn't take the place, but it maybe can help her still feel a sense of celebration and joy, even when she can't, you know, get hugs from people like you.
Yeah, I'm gonna want that info from you. That sounds pretty perfect.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was asked to be a part of it for Stacey, and I think it's just a really beautiful gesture that can really make a difference for everybody who has something like major going on right now, to just like get all of that, all of those sentiments of love and strength all compiled into something that you can really watch like at any point in your life where you just need that like pick me up. I think it's really beautiful. So yeah. Okay, so now I get to share the second quote that Erika shared with us. And so I'm gonna pull that up on my screen real quick and do a quick little screen share. And this one says, often the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. That's by Carl Jung. So Erika, what was it about this one, this quote that made you select it to share with us today?
Well, just generally speaking, Jung is definitely one of my favorite philosophers. I really like the way he kind of gets into the collective consciousness and the way that, as much as we're all individuals, the common bonds that tie humanity. And this is a quote that just resonates with me because I am a hands-on learner. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners. I'm a hands-on learner. I have to get my hands dirty and really get in the mix in order to get something. And I feel that I really think that it's the best way to not only teach yourself how to do certain crafts, but I feel like it's when you're really absorbed and involved in the process of creation or making or building with your hands, that sometimes you have kind of these philosophical almost epiphanies, or at least that's true for me. I know that that's when I tend to come to the solutions for problems that my anxious, overthinking brain tends to loop around and around and around, where I could overthink myself into a very deep hole. Whereas sometimes if I just extract myself from the tendency to do that and just start making or building or creating, I don't know, it just helps me get a better grasp on what I'm trying to do in my mind. So I don't know, it's just another quote that really resonates with me, and I thought that it really went well with what you guys are creating here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's a great quote also. Okay, so now I have the pleasure of getting to kind of introduce Erika again. If you saw her previous episode, then you know that she is an art teacher. She is also a self-taught chef. Is that correct, Erika? Right? Yeah, and it blew my mind when I read that in your bio that you're self-taught, because if you see any of Erika's work, it looks spectacular. I mean, her creations with everything that she makes just looks so beautiful and like pristine, and there's this, you can just tell there's so much love and creativity and joy that she just puts into all of her food. And it truly, like, every creation is a work of art. It's so beautiful. So Erika gets to share some of her other amazing abilities with showing us how to do a marble glaze. So she's going to change her camera angle so we can get a close-up shot of the work that she's doing. But I am super excited to watch her work because I've only been able to see the finished products of what she's made. It'll be really fascinating to watch her actually go through some of the process. So thank you so much, Erika, for doing this for us and being on again. And I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. Just very quickly, just to talk you through what we're going to do. We are going to be doing a marble glaze with both a basic, just a royal icing glaze, and also with marbled white chocolate. And it's just in a bit of kismet. It really ties into what everyone shared on their kind of how you're feeling check-in. Because my thought process behind this particular lesson was, with people kind of being stuck at home, the face of gatherings has really changed. And for me, I'm really not having much of a wedding season right now, which is usually, I would be very busy in the spring, making people cakes and cookies and all that beautiful stuff for their weddings and for their showers. And we've kind of taken a pause of that. But that said, the reason for the events go on. Our birthdays are still there. Our happiness over expecting a child or over tying the knot to the one we love is still there. So this is going to give you a very simple way to make your baked goods look extra special and beautiful, and just really fun, so that if you are having these sort of events at home, you can create something that feels special and right for these events that we're talking about. So very quickly, we're going to be dipping today. I do have some store-bought Oreos, because this is something you can do whether you want to bake or not. You can glaze stuff you made or stuff you bought, doesn't matter. We're going to be doing some strawberries. And then I do also have, these are some graham crackers that I baked. I have some Mexican chocolate ones there that have a little cayenne and spice in them. And then I have some lavender and honey ones here. But basically, we're going to take these from, you know, drab to fab. And it's going to be super simple to do so. So for my white chocolate, I have mine in my fancy little melting pot here that I have because I work with chocolate a lot, but you certainly don't need this. You can use kind of the white chocolate candy melts that they sell in a lot of stores, and those you can melt right in your microwave. Or if you have a double boiler or something like that, you can use that too, but it's certainly not necessary. So I've already melted my white chocolate, so we're not waiting for that to happen. And then as far as making my royal icing glaze, I want to show you how super easy this is. Now, when you're making royal icing for cookie decorating that's more involved, you really do need to worry about the thickness or the viscosity of your royal icing. But since we are doing a process that is pretty darn simple, which you're about to learn, we don't have to worry so much about that, the careful measuring. We can kind of eye it and see when it's as thick as you want it. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of just powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, doesn't matter the brand, whatever brand you like. So I started with a cup of that. And then I have warm water here, not hot, but not icy cold either. And I've got 2 cups here, but I'm gonna add a cup to start and see where that gets me. And then I'm simply just gonna mix that up with my spoon. And if it's too thin, I'm going to add more sugar, and it is definitely too thin. So I'm gonna add a 2nd cup of my powdered sugar. And as you could see, I'm not leveling things off, and I'm not being super careful about measuring because, once again, this is a kind of forgiving process, and you're going to really just be able to eye it up and see when it's the way you want it. It's still looking a little thin to me. Okay, so we're going to do another cup. Maybe a 1/2 cup because we're getting there. That should do it. So if you're keeping track, so far we've got 3 cups of powdered sugar to our 1 cup of water. And I'm carefully stirring this. We don't want to incorporate too many air bubbles into this because if we have air bubbles in our glaze, we will have air bubbles in our finished glaze as well. So I try not to over stir, but you can also simply give it a nice little series of taps there, and your air bubbles will all float to the top, where you can either pop them individually with a toothpick, which is a little bit time consuming, but I do it because I'm a little obsessive compulsive. You know what? This still looks a tiny bit thin to me. So we're going to do a little more sugar. And I don't know if you can hear that commotion in the background, but my foster kittens have reached the absolute chaotic terror stage in their development where they want to climb everything. So they're climbing something. I'm not even going to look. I just don't want to know.
That's okay, Erika. My cat, who is 2, she still has that like crazy kitten energy where she'll climb anything and everything. She's nuts.
It really is so cute. But yeah, it's just every time I think I've predicted everything they could get into, no, they'll show me the one thing I forgot. All right, so this is starting to look good to me. It no longer looks like water. It's got a nice white color to it. I'm really just trying to make sure I don't have any clumps of powdered sugar in there. I could give it a run through with a whisk to make sure, but that incorporates a little bit too many air bubbles for my liking, so I tend to just stir and stir and stir. All right.
How you might get to this when you start icing, but how many things does that ice? Like if people are wanting to, I don't know, let's say they have 3 dozen cookies or something they need to worry about. Is there a certain amount that they need to use in terms of that?
This would definitely cover 3 dozen cookies, but it really depends on the size of your cookies and things like that. But that said, I don't ever mind making a big batch of my plain glaze because it's just water and powdered sugar. So you can put a lid on this and save it and, you know, use it maybe the next time you want to make cookies. All you'll have to do is maybe add a drop of water just to get it back to where it was, because it will get sort of a hardened shell on top. This does air dry, so you do want to keep it in a container that you can easily keep it airtight. So that's why I like to make it in Tupperware, because then I can just slap a lid on it. But here we are. Okay, so we've got our white glaze here, and once again, it's just, we want it to have like a milky color. We don't want it to be so thick that we're having trouble stirring it with our spoon, because that's going to give you a super thick glaze. And maybe you like that, but I don't like my desserts overly sweet, and this is already pretty darn sweet. So I like to get the kind of thinnest layer of it that I can while still giving it that pretty design. If you want, this is when you could also add a few drops of your favorite flavoring, anything from vanilla extract to rum extract to lemon extract, strawberry extract. It does not matter. The one thing I will say is you want to use an extract that is clear, because if it's not clear, this is just a basic water and royal icing, it's going to color very easily. So if you're using, let's say, a real strawberry extract that tends to come out pink, your glaze is going to be pink. So I just added a drop of my vanilla extract. If you want to measure it, you can. That would have been about a 1/4 teaspoon for a glaze this size, but you really want to taste this and you know, make sure that it's not overly sweet and that your flavoring is coming through. All right, I'm gonna get my spoon out and put that to the side. So we've got our melted white chocolate, which the only thing I'm going to do to this is I tend to find that the candy melts that you buy in stores, they tend to come out very thick. It's a very thick chocolate coating. So I take my, let's move this. I take my coconut oil, and it's one that is a solid at room temperature. That's very important. This won't work with a liquid coconut oil, but I just add, you know, a teaspoon of coconut oil right to my white chocolate. You could do that with your regular chocolate as well. It won't change the color of it. It's clear, but it will help thin it out so that you don't have that super thick chalky coating that you sometimes get with the candy melts. You can also thin out just regular chocolate. If you're making your white chocolate with just regular baker's chocolate, you can do the same thing. You never want to try to thin out chocolate with anything water-based, because it will make your chocolate seize. Chocolate is oil-based and it does not react very nicely to water. So you always want to thin it out with oil. Now is the fun part. So very quickly, just prepared, I already have my baking sheet with my wax paper down. If you have parchment paper, that'll work as well. Or even if you just have a Silpat or a non-stick pan, that is where my already glazed cookies are going to end up, right on there, okay? To do the marbling, got my nice glaze here. Give that one last stir, because once I start adding my food coloring, I do not want to be stirring it. Alrighty. So I'm just gonna pick some colors I like. There's really no rhyme or reason to this. I have this nice, pretty fuchsia color, and it really doesn't matter what brand you're using. What I will say though is you do want to use a food coloring that is gel based, not water based. For one thing we just talked about with the chocolate, it will make your chocolate seize. The second thing is this is much thicker than a water-based food coloring, so it holds up when marbling a little better. Because it's got a thicker viscosity than the glaze it's going into, it tends to stay more solid and give you those really pretty marbled lines. So very quickly, I am just gonna drip a drop in there, and I'm gonna pick you up for a second. And I'm gonna switch my view, just give me a moment. Okay, so here we are. I just dropped my nice fuchsia in there. And I am going to take just a regular toothpick here and kind of give it a swirl. Now you don't need to do all your swirling here, which you're going to see in just a second, because actually dipping the cookies will do the rest of this work for you. So I'm gonna move my pan right here so that I have an easy place, but I just want to show you. So I'm going to start with one of these little Mexican chocolate graham crackers I made. And we are simply going to dunk it in and pull it out. And that will give you a nice little marbled effect. Let's try it with another one. Once again, I'm gonna dunk it in and pull it out. And the motion of just pulling it from the glaze will give you that lovely marbled effect. You can do this with more than one color. So I'm gonna get my next color here. And I've just got to show you because this is the cutest thing ever. This is my little assistant who's decided he's going to sit at my feet right now.
Oh, little cutie.
At least he's being good, so I can't say much.
Aww.
So we're going to add as a drop of, this is turquoise. I am going to get a clean toothpick because why not? Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm holding this camera, so just bear with me if I kind of bring you along with me when I'm doing things. But same deal. I'm going to swirl it. And once again, since I'm using the gel colorings, they tend to hold their own, okay? If these were water-based, these browns the magenta and the teal would already be mixing and you'd be getting more of a brown instead of the two distinct colors. So I am going to dip.
And I would guess, Erika, you could pretty much dip any cookie, right? Like it doesn't really matter.
Absolutely.
There doesn't have to be like a certain substrate or anything.
No, you could dip any cookie. Now, just keep in mind, these have a pretty flat surface. So it goes on very nice. If you have something that's a more of a rougher texture, like let's say like an oatmeal raisin or a chocolate chip cookie, it's still going to work. Just realize that you're going to see the texture of the cookie still underneath, which in fact, I will demonstrate that with an Oreo, which has its own nice little texture here. So we're going to go into the glaze. Come out. And once again, we've got this nice, I've got that air bubble there. So I can just take my toothpick and kind of pop it. And I just kind of swirl it to kind of fill in the spot where it was. Now this is just with my food coloring. My next step is I take my little metallic dusts, and I have a million of these in all different shades, and just a simple paintbrush. Give me a second.
Where do you get
the lid off with one hand?
Where do you get those metallic dusts from?
You can actually find these anywhere that like they sell, decent basic baking supplies these days. Like I found them in my grocery store. Other than that, if you have a specialty cake store near you, they'll definitely have them. Worst case, you can get them online. I do have some brands that I really like that I'll be happy to share with you. But so I just take a little bit of the edible dust and I apply it to a paintbrush. I hold it over and I simply tap it with my finger. Maybe a little more, let's see. And then you get that nice kind of metallic sheen right on the cookie, which I think really helps with the marbled effect. So
it's
that
like
is doing the marbling. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, just saying it's like a little galaxy. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, that was like unintentional. I didn't even realize what the colors I picked, but that definitely gives you that kind of galaxy feel. So that is with the royal icing. And once again, I have plenty here. I could keep dipping. And my favorite part about this is every one you dip is going to come out a little different. So, I mean, no two cookies are going to look exactly the same, which I personally love. I like the uniqueness of each one. If you want to do this with more than two colors, you can go as many colors as you want. Just be aware, the more colors you add, the more you do this, you will start to lose your white. You will start to get more of like depending on the colors you're using, different colored bases, and you'll have to layer it up. If you want everything to look as clean as these first few batches, what you're going to want to do is make your big glaze and then portion it out into smaller cups so that you're not, I don't want to say contaminating, but you're not dyeing your whole batch of icing at once. And then you can keep adding clean white if you want and adding more colors if you want. but that is the basics on how to get your marbled cookies, or I've done marbled donuts. You could probably do a lot of other things with this as well. But you're just dipping it in the glaze, putting it on a sheet pan to dry, and they'll be ready to go. If you don't like the little foot trail that it makes around it, I would just move it after, I would say, about 10 minutes before it's completely dry. And then, you can, I've actually peeled these little dried glaze spots off and use them as cake decorations, but that's just me. Very quickly, I do want to also show you the chocolate. It's the same exact process, but I do want to show you it just so that you know that it works. So I'm going to take my chocolate pot here, can move it out of the warmer because it's only going to be out a few minutes. So as you can see, we have our plain white chocolate here. And then let's do a different color. It's nice corally pink color I like. Now there are special colorings that are made just for chocolate, but I do not use them for marbling, and I'll tell you why. The gel color in the chocolate really ends up looking like marble because gel color doesn't really want to mix into chocolate. So what you get is really nice coloration that really never blends into the main batch of chocolate. It will kind of stay on its own. If you used special chocolate dyes, it would mix in more. I don't know how else to put it, but it would mix in more. And we're gonna add a little drop of purple too, because I like doing 2 colors at once. It's just a personal preference. All right, and then we're gonna dip some strawberries.
So Erika, when do you make the decision to use the sugar glaze versus like a chocolate glaze? Is that more just like a taste preference or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If anything, I would probably do a white chocolate glaze on most everything just because I prefer chocolate just to a regular glaze. But for certain things like on donuts and cookies, sometimes that can overpower the flavor of your baked good. But for something like strawberries, when we all love a chocolate covered strawberry, this is going to work great. The one thing you really do want to make sure when you're doing chocolate covered strawberries or any other fruit is you need to make sure that they're nice and dry before you start, because like we talked about, water will make your chocolate seize up. So, I really just gave these a nice dry with a paper towel after I washed them. And we're just going to get her in there. And we're going to swirl her around a little. Okay, and then once again, she's going to go right on there. And this one, let's see. Well, maybe I picked a color that was a little too close to the strawberry, but let's see if we can get another one that looks a little more vibrant. So once again, she kind of goes in there. I kind of roll it. Just make sure she's dunked nice and good. There we go. We got some good color on that one. So this is, if you get one that you don't have a lot of color on, just redunk it. It's not the end of the world. And just like I did before, I can then take my little edible dusts here. This one's like a rose gold color. And I just dip my paintbrush in. And then just kind of tap it on. Can do it again if I don't have enough on there. There we go. And then that'll dry with a nice metallic sheen over top of your pretty colors.
I am such a sucker for anything metallic that as soon as you incorporated the metallic dust, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I mean, they're pretty anyway, but I feel like the metallic just elevates it that much further. And it's really something that's relatively easy to do.
I agree. I think it makes everything look that much more just chic. I'm a big fan of the metallic dust as well. I have them in just about every color at this point. I'm a bit of a collector of them. And as yours dry, if you have air bubbles, once again, you can always take your I call it a Q-tip, your toothpick, and just kind of poke it and then swirl it Okay, and that will cover up any little dings that you might have. Normally, I would have taken a little more time to pop my bubbles in my glaze before I started, but I didn't want to make you all sit through that, so we didn't do that today. But that is your basics. You can always elevate these a little more by, once your glaze is on, you can add other, what I would call, I guess, toppings. You can use edible flowered petals. You could use any sort of like dried fruit or maybe even some crushed up nuts. You can add your favorite sprinkles. Really, the sky's the limit, so you can get as creative as you wanted with that, and they will stick right to the glaze. So when you're done, you will have some lovely little treats. Um, maybe you have an event coming up that you were really looking forward to, and now you're finding yourself not so much looking forward to it. Maybe someone in your family is having a birthday and you want to make them something special. Maybe you're not the best baker, or maybe you're a great baker, but you don't like the way your baked goods look, and you feel hesitant in giving them to somebody as a gift. This is a super easy process that you can do. It doesn't take a lot of ingredients, and it obviously does not take a ton of time. You will find that the different colors you use, you'll get different effects. And basically, this is something that will always feel new, because no two cookies or strawberries or donuts or whatever you're dipping will ever come out the same. They're always going to look different, because the process itself is what creates the pattern on them. So I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial on how to make some marbled white chocolate and some marbled royal icing glazes for your treats.
I love too, Erica, how like with the Oreos there, it actually looks like it's like magnifying the holes in the Oreos or something through the royal icing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad I had that, because when you asked that great question about texture, it was, the flowers, I believe these are off-brand Oreos, but the little flower paddle that they have stamped onto them, it definitely kind of comes through. So that would be an interesting thing to kind of mess around with and see how different texture on your cookies. Maybe you can make some cool designs with that too. So
That can be for your next feature in the New York Times, Erika.
Oh my goodness.
I support it. I think you should pitch it to your contact.
Right.
It would be great.
Oh, thank you for the idea. I love that.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, because what I love about this, everything that you showed us today too, is just that like it's really inexpensive, and it looks super expensive. Like if you were to purchase like marbleized, like, cookies that have edible metallic dust on them to like bring to a party, I'm sure it would be like decent. It would be an investment of some kind, an investment for
yeah, for sure. Because I'll tell you what, I do charge, when I make these, I do charge what they're worth. They're little individual works of art. And as much as it's simple, once you kind of understand the process, it is still a process, and it's something that you'll get better at the more you do. You kind of get a natural feel for how things are going to marble. When I started doing this, I almost always over mixed my colors, and so I would end up with muddy colors pretty quickly. And I've kind of learned to let them mix on their own as you go through the dipping process and get all kinds of pretty colors and different shades and different patterns.
Yeah. So it's really, I mean, obviously it's a skill that you have to practice, to refine, but it's something that's doable. And, it's something that could be as simple as like buying a pack of off-brand Oreos that have like flower designs,
Yeah.
and most of us have like confectioner sugar and obviously water. You might need to like buy the chocolate and then the gel dyes, but that's awesome. It's really
and once again, these days, because cake decorating and just baking in general has really been coming back as something that people want to do, you can find these gel colorings at pretty much any grocery store that has even a small baking aisle. I know Walmart and Wegmans and Giant are all places that I've gotten these gel dyes at. I haven't had to go anywhere special to get them. Sometimes I'll order like special colors that are rare online, but outside of that, you can find this. You can also, if you only have the water-based food coloring at home, that does not mean you can't try this. I am just warning you. You really want to be careful then not to overmix your glaze. And you cannot use the water-based dyes in your chocolate, or you will seize your chocolate and you will not be happy. But
Erica, how long does it take for those to dry typically?
Well, let's see. Not very long. Like that one still had a little bit of tackiness to it. But I also haven't put it, normally I would put them either somewhere that was like cool, or if I want to dry them really fast, I can point a fan at them. But in general, they'll be dry within a half an hour to maybe an hour max.
That's fantastic. I love how pretty they look. They're just so pretty.
Yeah, I just think they're really fun. And like I said, I know I've seen a lot of, not just moms, but a lot of moms on Facebook who are really trying to get creative with making their kids or their husband, whoever, making birthdays special. And I just feel like this is something that you could do really easily. And, it looks like you've spent a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort on something that's really fairly simple. And you could do it in whoever you're making them for. You can do it in their favorite colors. I picked some of my favorite colors.
Well, thank you so much, Erika, for being on again for us and for showing us just another one of your beautiful skills that you have like an endless amount of, which I always enjoy watching you. So thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed doing this, so thanks for having me again. I love sharing the cool things that I've learned in the kitchen. I am self-taught, and this is the most of the way that I've done it, just by going in the kitchen and trying things out until I like the results. So don't be afraid to experiment either.
Yeah, and if you're not already following Erika on Instagram, her handle is Love Bites by Erika, and truly every image is just stunning. And when you think about how it's something that Erika herself has made, it just will amaze you even more because it's truly, truly beautiful. So thank you, Erika. And and don't forget to check out Erika's feature in the New York Times too. We'll incorporate that into the show notes so that everybody can see that. And yeah, thanks so much, Erika.
Thanks again for having me. I love doing this with you guys.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much. And I have just one last quick question, Erika, which is, where do you go for inspiration? Is there a particular set of like books or shows or people that you feel like, rock it and you love getting inspired by?
Well, for sure. Honestly, just my Instagram community of bakers is a great place for inspiration. I feel like it really is a community where we encourage the sharing of ideas, because you might have come up with a technique and I might think of a completely different way to use it that you never thought of. So it really is an exchange of information, to kind of come up with all different unique ways of doing maybe one technique from 100 different perspectives, and no two things come out identical. Outside of that, I really tap into my own fine art background. That is where my education lies. So for me, a lot of it has been translating art techniques that are usually done in non-edible means and putting them into edible means. So for instance, marbleized painting it's a huge trend right now. But for years it's been being done. For decades it's been being done. So seeing that and knowing how you do a marbleized paint, the first time I made a big blank batch of royal icing, I was like, oh, I could definitely marbleize things with this. Things like I do different stenciled cakes and bas relief buttercreams, but they're all just translations of fine art techniques using edible mediums. And so I don't know, it's really interesting because sometimes I've found that doing things edible makes me a stronger non-edible artist, if that makes sense, because I have a really good feel for how the materials work and why the process works, more so than just reading it from a book and being like, okay, this works. But that goes back to the hands-on. That's how I learn.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for answering that question. I think it's a lot of artists that have been on the show have said that there's the element of kind of play and experimentation that comes into this. And yeah, I think that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to have had Erika on today, and we hope the show did bring that smile to your face, and also some ideas of how you can get in the kitchen and do some interesting and beautiful marbleized pieces. And we always end our show with the same quote from a Mary Oliver poem, which is, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?" So thank you everyone so much for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Have a good day.
Erika, bye.
Bye.